Even men at the top of their game find themselves wanting more from life. Whether it's more meaning, unshakable confidence, a bigger impact, more money, deeper love, a hotter sex life, or a powerful legacy. Find out how good your life can be on this episode of Man Alive. Also, as I've supported men in their love and work lives for 15 years now, many men have asked me for the right words to say to be more attractive, desirable, and more of a leader. And I've found it's not so simple as giving scripts or lines. Because at the root of a connected and affectionate relationship and being more effective and inspiring at work is your ability to influence others. But most often, influence is not gained or lost with words. It's from what I call the invisible factors. So I created a quick guide for you called 3 Ways Men Lose Influence at Work and with Women, so you can understand how these invisible factors work and what has women and colleagues both more inspired to say yes. I think you're also going to be surprised to find out the moment when your influence actually begins. So grab the guide for free at ShaynaJamesCoaching.com/3ways. That's ShaynaJamesCoaching.com/3 and the word ways, WAYS. Or you can text ALIVE to 44144. That's the word ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144. I hope you enjoy the guide and this episode. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Man Alive. I'm excited to be here today with Guy Finley. Guy, welcome.
Hi, I'm glad to be with you, Shauna.
And for those of you, I will give a brief bio, but what we're going to talk about today is really growing yourself in and through relationship. And so the willingness to actually grow and to see your partner as a mirror who can help you grow, as opposed to the way we often approach relationship, which is, what can I get from this, right? Like, how can I get my needs met? And how can I have the experiences I want to have? And, relationships are struggling. People are struggling in relationships these days. The divorce rate is over 50%.
Oh, yeah.
I think for first marriages, maybe 70% for second.
And not just individually.
Yeah.
We're talking about a partnership at not just a personal level, but relationship is the crux of life.
Yes.
I mean, the world has never been more upside down than it is right now.
Yeah.
Because nobody understands the real purpose of our relationships.
Yes.
And that's, of course, what we're going to explore.
Ooh, I love that. Okay, good. That's a good foreshadowing. So let me introduce you and then, then we'll dive into the rest. So Guy Finley is the best-selling author of more than 45 books and audio albums on self-realization, including The Secret of Letting Go, The Essential Laws of Fearless Living, and your brand new book, Relationship Magic, Waking Up Together. He's the founder and director of Life of Learning Foundation, a nonprofit center for spiritual discovery in Southern Oregon, and gives talks 3 times a week. He's a faculty member at the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York, 1440 Multiversity, and is a regular expert contributor to BeliefNet and the Huffington Post. So I imagine that bio seems like slim in a way of the decades you've been doing this and the 40-something books you've written and talks and everything you've given. So thank you for being here today with your wisdom and your experience and the love that I can feel in being with you and helping us understand relationships.
May it be so. And thank you for the opportunity to share these ideas, Shanna.
Yeah. So let's start. You just said something about the purpose, like that people actually don't even understand the purpose of relationships. And that actually is one of the things, I've worked with certain clients on of most people have not really considered, why am I in relationship beyond, okay, I want to have a family, or this is just what we do in life. Yeah. So, right? I mean, this is kind of the progression of where we go.
Yeah.
What do you see as the purpose of relationships?
There's a passage in some I can't think of which book it is, a great religious spiritual book from the Far East, says something like, birds fly, fish swim, humans pray. What it alludes to is that we each have a nature specific to our scheme in creation, if you will.
Yeah.
And that for us, we are meant to be self-developing beings.
Hmm.
Our purpose on this planet isn't to become rich. It's not to possess lots of stuff. I'm not denigrating that. I'm just saying that so much of our purpose in this world is dedicated to the idea of enriching ourselves through things
Yes.
that complement what we believe we're meant to be. And part of those accoutrements actually wind up to be our relationships with people.
Yeah.
Because for most part, our relationships with people have to do with how do you serve me? How do you forward me? How do I forward you along the lines of what we believe is a progression of our being? And our being is not limited to what we know in this world through what the world and our culture and even our religion offers us.
Yeah.
So
interesting that they chose pray instead of grow or develop or.
well,
What do you
pray
think of that?
in the original Vedic scripture did not mean like sit down and go, pray, pray, pray.
Uh-huh.
It meant essentially to develop and complete oneself through communion.
Uh-huh.
That's what prayer is, not this unfortunate idea today for many people of this duality. It's more the idea of what happens to me when I am in relationship with something that as I learn and work and grow, I discover really isn't outside of me at all, but rather that I have been apart from because of a bunch of mistaken ideas about what relationships are, not just with my partner, but with the divine as I imagine him or her to be.
So if we were going to break this down so people can start to get a sense of what we're talking about, you just said, right, the mistaken idea that we are separate or that
apart from
Uh-huh.
love.
Uh-huh.
Pure and simple. Because any way you shake it, in the end, that's what the divine is. Yeah. It is the embodiment, the expression, and the fulfillment of love.
Okay, so people are in a relationship and they fall in love, which I don't even know what that means anymore. I think usually it's chemicals and whatever, But
I don't think many people actually know anymore.
No.
Look, let's back up a little bit and get grounded here.
Okay, great.
Because you and I could obviously take off and
we could fly with the birds.
And then no one would
understand what we're talking about. Yeah.
Let's say, what? I live in Southern Oregon here, and if I had audacity, I would turn my computer around so that you could see this splendiferous late fall day where I live on a small mountain. The deciduous trees have all turned. They stand there with their colors, highlighting the pines that don't lose their leaves. The ground is a patchwork of Indian corn colors, where the green is just starting to come up through them. Mm-hmm. And I'm just painting this picture because, when I'm sitting here working at home and I'm looking at my computer or quietly contemplating, I'm in relationship with one world. I open my eyes, I look outside, and suddenly I get to experience through that relationship a series of feelings, characteristics, qualities that I don't know are in me until I look outside the window. So when I look outside the window and see the colors or the deer, because I've been hand feeding deer for 7 generations of them here, I am suddenly endowed with an awareness of a quality in my own consciousness that until there is that relationship, those parts of me stand unrevealed. I am asleep to those parts of my own mind and heart until the moment of relationship. So relationship is revelation. It is actually a mirror through which I get to discover there are parts of me that can feel these things that I don't feel or know in myself until they're suddenly before me in the scenic view that I see.
Right. And
Following
much
me?
simpler with the scenic view than when you put another person in front of you and you start to
Grasshopper.
get confused.
Yes, you're ahead of me. Exactly. So when we fall in love,
Yes.
in quotes, because love is really, uh, I outlined 3 stages of love. The first stage we're just going to start talking about. That's where I meet you,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't see one thing to change about you. I mean, let's just talk right through the night. We'll have a glass of wine, and we'll touch. We know whether everything's a thrill.
Everything's thrilling
You
and new.
complete me in
Yeah.
ways I couldn't have even known you would complete me,
Yes.
because until I was actually standing, sitting, laying next to you,
I wasn't feeling all of these things.
I didn't know I had these things in me.
Right.
I hoped I did, but there they are.
Yeah.
That's the first stage. There's not a fault anywhere in anything, because by magnetics, important point, something in me was drawn to something in you.
Mm-hmm.
Something in you was drawn to something in me. And whatever it was that drew us together, which is love, has brought us together for a purpose that honestly, neither of us can even begin to guess at yet, because all we're seeing is rainbows and starlight.
Right.
That's it.
There's a part of me, and I think this might be getting off track, but you can tell me if it makes sense, that wants to say like, well, what is it in you that is drawn to me, or me that is drawn to you, right? What is it? Is that what you're saying? That's love.
Yes. Only corresponding parts in myself
Mm-hmm.
are attractive to corresponding parts in your consciousness.
Uh-huh.
So when they are brought together in the moment of that relationship, suddenly you realize what was laying dormant in you, that without me being next to you would remain dormant. So you suddenly get the experience of all these qualities that are...
It's like waking up.
Yes. Waking up together.
Your book, the subtitle of your book, Waking Up Together.
Yeah, the first stage of moving out of being asleep to latent elements that only love can reveal as being always present in us. Because that's part of the point, Shanna. You didn't create these feelings.
Yeah.
You revealed them to me.
Yeah.
Right? First stage of love. And ain't it grand? Because it is.
It's the light parts waking up versus
Well,
the darker parts that seem to come in.
Well, let's not get to the darker parts yet. Because you see, that's part of the problem.
Uh-huh.
Our mindset is that as long as you remain the end-all be-all to me,
Mm-hmm.
that I have found you to be, then we're going to be in love, and that's what love is. But the problem is, and now to make a point in the book, story I tell.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a little girl. Her father gives her a beautiful potted rose. Daughter seen dad go out there, beautiful rose bushes, massive, fragrance, color. So what does she do? Well, like dad, she takes the potted rose, goes outside, digs a little hole, sticks it in the ground. 3 weeks later, comes to dad, kind of whiny. What's wrong, sweetie? The rose isn't growing like your roses grow. What's wrong? I don't know, sweetheart. Let's go see. Out they go. And what do you think the father, meaning wisdom in this story, discovers? The little girl, nascent love, the early development of the soul. What does the father discover? Sweetheart.
You have to water it.
No. You have to take it out of the pot. Because if you water it in the pot, it kills it.
Uh-huh.
See? So the lesson being that for love to grow, we have to grow. And while we're discovering these beatific, almost supernal parts of our own consciousness in the early stages of love, that's not growing, that's discovering.
There's a big distinction there, right? Between growing and discovering.
But when we get the idea that these early bonding stages are there as an act of love to bring us together, so that when at last the next stage of love occurs, which is where for it to flower, it has to have a bigger pot. And it can't have a bigger pot if I'm pointing at you as being the reason we're stuck. So what happens now is that the relationship begins to serve its next highest purpose, which is, instead of me seeing through you all of these marvelous parts of myself that I can't believe are there, but I'm so glad they are, now you begin to exhibit things that, as the sexual aspect wears off, as the thrill turns into small chills, when things that I discounted in your personality earlier start to push the button, now I have a chance to start doing what? Using the revelation of the relationship to discover the parts of me that are set off, that have expectations, that come to the moment with a demand. I don't know are limitations, but they are limitations.
First, we get the gift, in a way, of discovering these, the beauty, the openness, the wisdom, all of these things. And then you're saying
mansions in my heart, that I didn't know were there.
Yes. And then the next phase is that we, in a way, we get the gift of finding these limitations in what keeps us from love and connection.
Yes, keeps us from yet another level of love.
Right. And doesn't it seem like this is where most people get stuck? Like, there isn't the recognition that there's another level of love.
This is why I wrote the book.
Yes. Okay.
That's exactly it. That's where we get stuck.
Yeah.
Because we don't understand the purpose of relationships. The purpose of I've been with my wife for almost 40 years.
Wow.
And our relationship has done nothing but flower and flower and flower.
Oh, that's inspiring.
Why? Because each of us understands that we are in one another's life to help each other grow into a more perfected expression of the love that brought us together to begin with. See, and that only happens when, for example, let's say you're with a partner, you're with your partner, or whoever's listening, and suddenly they say something to you, and boom, there it is. In your mind, it was it was passive aggressive. You've been laying in wait to make a comment like that, and you brought in our past, which I've asked you not to do, and our mind is suddenly replete with all the reasons why we are suddenly negative towards our partner. Now, listeners, we see our partner at fault for our pain in that moment. Would our partner have made the passive-aggressive comment if not the moment before we hadn't been, done, or said something that stirred a corresponding pain in them?
Right, but then I'm sure the listener could argue, right, but then he or she did something, and right. So how do you? I can see the framework of, but it started somewhere.
A pattern. That's exactly right.
Yes.
And it seems that the pain started with what the person popped in me. When the truth of the matter is, the pain started in the other person, and now they need someone to blame for the way they feel.
Right.
Now, they have pointed out something that, if we're at all honest, we know is partially true.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you don't have to be an Einstein. I'm impatient.
Right.
I'm not perfect.
Right. Or we're selfish, or any of these things. Right. There is some grain of truth or some.
Oh my God. You mean I didn't drop my whole life because you were in a negative state to comfort you? I mean, this is the mind, an immature mind.
Yeah.
This is how we are when we don't understand that the reason that I get negative with my partner is because in the moment when I resist them, I am pushing away something that they have pointed out in me. If I push away something they pointed out in me, it doesn't heal what has been pointed out. It validates the idea that no one's supposed to point that out.
So, okay, can I ask a specific question, like to clarifying?
Sure.
I had a moment in my relationship this weekend where he was saying something like, I want you to touch me this way. This would feel really good. And sometimes you touch me in this other way and it feels less good. And in the moment, I could hear the voice in my head saying, no, I don't. Or what do you mean? What are you talking about? Or going into the shame of, well, if I was really a good woman or a good person, we would never have to have this conversation because I would know exactly what you need and right, all of that stuff. And we managed to just, lovingly talk through it. And I asked questions and got curious. And, I think in some ways I did well for that moment. Right. But I could still see, even today, a couple of days later, I heard that voice in my head saying something like, did I really do that? Or, you know what I mean? That negative voice. So I think I wanted to just bring a concrete example to see if we can keep grounding it, right? And bringing it into these specific moments. You can use another example too, but so that people can really get it.
Well, let's start with something fairly provocative.
Okay.
What we call compromise in our relationships is kicking the can down the street. And you just proved it.
Which means?
It means that my partner says something to me and I immediately have a reaction. Mm-hmm. Because essentially my partner's saying, you're not really perfect.
Uh-huh. And I'm supposed to be perfect.
No, well,
in my mind. In my mind.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the minute that one points out an imperfection in me, do I go, oh, thank you, sweetheart. I love you so much for pointing out this imperfection in me.
No.
Or do I either bow my back and push back, or I acquiesce in some way so as to keep the illusion going that, yes, I am perfect, and I'm going to do now what I really don't want to do, maybe, in order that you think I'm perfect. So we get past the moment, but we don't get past the resentment. And we don't get past the part of us that feels as if it's been pushed into a posture that it's not interested in being, or actually wants nothing to do with, but agrees to do so in order to keep the boat from rocking in that moment. And then the next time that wave comes up, which you can be sure it will, the resentment that wasn't resolved because the pain behind it was never understood.
Okay, so can you help us understand that pain? Because I love what you wrote, right? It's like people have no idea what to do, or very little idea of what to do with our pain. And then we keep throwing it on each other, or, exploding or pulling away, or all those things. So what actually helps with that pain in the moment?
All right. We'll take it out of the context of this particular moment you were speaking about and broaden it up a little bit.
Great.
Would my partner suggest to me that there's something I could do or be better if, when my partner makes that suggestion, he or she actually isn't saying, let me fix a fault in you? So really what my partner is saying, as I said, you're not quite perfect, but you could be if you would only do this, say this. Exactly. Now, when my partner says that, my response to his suggestion or her suggestion that they could fix me does the antithesis of fixing me. Now I'm filled with, well, let me fix you, buddy. Let me tell you how you could be.
Even if however I respond, I'm filled with, let me tell you, resentment.
Let's call it what it is.
Okay.
And not only that, look, you can say or not say, here I am, I'm in an intimate moment. And I'm given a suggestion about intimacy.
Yeah.
What could be less intimate? And what could drive me further from the beautiful sensation of coupling, of communion, of physical energies being intermingled than
And yet
somebody
we
telling
do
me,
it all the
"Yeah,
time.
here's how I want you to mingle."
Yeah.
No, you're not asking me to mingle with you. You're telling me how to make you have max pleasure.
Hmm.
That's not how I get max pleasure. And so there's automatically in that, and that's what we've been taught. Look, I'm not saying couples should not talk about these things. By God, they should.
Right. Because if you don't talk about them and you don't know what each other wants,
Then
then
it gets
you're
worse. It
right,
will get
worse
worse.
too.
But there's always a right time and a right place. And the right place to discuss intimacy is not necessarily while you're being intimate, because without knowing it, you're throwing your partner into his or her head. The head can't be intimate.
Well, okay. And for my example, it wasn't actually in the moment of intimacy. It was a separate conversation. And I think it's good to use both examples though, because
Sure.
there are times when it's really common for people to
We get it. We get it.
Yeah.
But I would just throw this into the mix.
Yes.
Because we're now looking at stage 2.
Yeah.
Stage 1, didn't matter how you touch me, honey. Let's just touch. There was no, gee, this could be better if you would do this. That didn't exist.
Interesting.
Because we were carried away in certain magnetic waves that were all consuming. Let's just say it what it was. Now suddenly we're in a stage where we're going to perfect what it is that we want from our partner that pleases us. And all I'm getting at here is we need to understand that is maybe something that needs to be discussed, but not the real problem at all.
Okay, that's good. So you're validating like that. Actually, people do need to discuss their needs and their likes and their desires and their wants and be honest with each other. But that's separate from what you're saying,
yes,
which is the underlying problem that creates the cycle of pain.
We're getting to something good here, Shannon.
Okay, good.
The real problem is that in the early stages, you complete me without me having to consult you.
Yes.
In the second stage, I'm still looking at you as being responsible for completing me the way I want now to be completed. So essentially, my suggestion to you is a subtle kind of demand that you be and do what I need you to do to make me whole. And in the second stage of our relationships, we're meant to start uncovering this beautiful phase where now, Shana, husband, wife, son, daughter, whatever it is, I understand if our relationship is going to grow, I have to grow. Not place a demand on you that you grow into someone that knows intuitively or not what to do to please me. So in the second stage, we need to outgrow the immature idea that our partner exists for the sole purpose of completing us according to our ideas of what that means.
Right, but can't you still have desires and need, like kind of like we were saying before?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if I start looking at you as the reason for my discontent, ignoring the fact that there's something discontent in me brought forward into this relationship that's now starting to assert itself, and it will ruin our relationship if it lives out its expression in that relationship with you.
Okay, this is good. So the discontent itself that I'm placing on the person in front of me, that I actually have to, you're saying, turn around and kind of look in the mirror and actually find that discontent.
There is in all of us, one way or the other, either through past failed relationships, not just with a partner. We can go back if our parents were all abusive, if our teacher was, condescending, if the person we worked with in our office had that cutting remark where they could see into our character and knew the button to push. The point being, there can't be something in us our partner pushes unless we brought a button with us into that moment. The partner doesn't create the button. They merely find it unconsciously and push it. And when the button's pushed, the solution isn't to hide the button or our reaction by blaming our partner. The solution is to understand, here is this seed of a suffering in myself that never healed.
And then what?
And my partner has just helped me become
Reveal
aware
it.
of it.
Yes.
That's what love does.
Okay, but then that leaves the whole question, which of course you write about in your book, of, all right, so now we're sitting here and my pain has been revealed and my button's been revealed.
Yes.
And instead of going down the same road that most of us go down again and again and again, what then?
So remember our little girl and her father? And that the rose, i.e. love, can't grow if it's contained in a pot? So if I see in myself a negative reaction, pure and simple, don't have to say what it is, a sudden resentment, a tinge of anger, in that moment,
even these tiny, like what seems really small,
they're all indicators of something that is a residual negative energy in our consciousness.
From a past experience.
From past experience, or maybe just, it doesn't even have to be that, it could just be essential in us. So my partner suggests to fix it. I want to say to my partner, fix yourself, dude. But I understand that if I push back, my partner will never see what it is that I want to be fixed in them.
Wait, okay, hold on, slow down, because I'm losing it.
Look, you've been through things in your life, I know from talking to you, where you have suddenly seen, without anybody saying thing on the moment, aspects of your nature that you got it. You know what? I don't know why I was identified with it. I sure don't know why I defended it, because there's no question. Nobody had to teach me. It didn't come from some religious book. I suddenly saw there are parts of me that compromise me, and they have to come to an end here and now. And not because I'm strong, but because I see the fact of something that is limiting me, and I want to be free of it. Yes or no?
Sure. Yes.
All of us have had those epiphanous moments where suddenly, through a revelation, we are released from something formerly we were identified with.
Yes.
In that moment, that part of us is healed.
Yeah.
It's healed because it's been revealed and because we're no longer trying to protect it.
Right.
When our partner points out something in us that isn't healed, we need to understand the revelation that that thing's been concealed in us. And now, if we do anything other than simply become aware of and deal responsibly with its appearance, it will never heal, because it wants to push us to blame our partner for its existence. We thank our partner for showing us that that exists in us, because it's an act of love, even if they've done it cruelly.
Right. And then responsibly deal with it. Can you go there?
And then if I see it, I can't do anything with it other than remain in an awareness of the fact of it. I don't let it talk to me. I don't talk to my partner, say, you know what? Thank you. You just showed me. And you might actually, you might, this is down the line. You might say, you know what? You've pointed that out to me 100 times. And 100 times I've pushed back. And while I wish you could have pointed it out differently, it's true. And I'm going to do my level best to no longer be the instrument of that part of myself. Because I see, listen, that the limitation was with me. And I blamed you for it. Any negative reaction we have to our partner toward what they point out to us as being within us is not their limitation. It's our limitation.
Okay, so this is pretty high level. And I know in your book you have couples who, examples, right, of couples who say, like, are you kidding me? I'm just supposed to sit here and say, oh, thanks, honey, you're pointing out this thing that you don't like about me, and now I have this revealed in myself. And right, I mean, it's I don't see it as being a doormat or so, as one of the words you used. I see it as this process of growth and becoming more conscious and loving. But
But this doesn't happen overnight.
overnight, no.
We couldn't even have this conversation the way we're having it if you hadn't already seen that love never blames. If you had not already suspected, intuited that the action of love is never to separate. So that if I'm suddenly blaming and trying to push back and separate myself from my partner, that's not the action of love.
Right.
I am in that moment in the hands of a very familiar part of myself that mechanically responds in a negative reaction, always has, because
And
that's
always will,
that's my familiar identity. That's what it does. But
right. So
we're asking.
well, in your book, you were saying, right, like there's this part of ourselves that is this negativity and this pain, and it's blind to anything else. That's all it can see. That's all it will see.
It's blind. For instance, if I love somebody, this is what we have to do. We have to build an understanding and then let this understanding start to appear in the moment where we say, I can't sit here, and we're not letting a partner abuse us.
Yes.
And no way under the sun are we talking about that. But those comments where suddenly that passive aggressive, gee, honey, did you put on a few pounds? No, please don't go shopping. Don't you have enough stuff already? Any one of 1,000 different offhanded comments, criticisms that produce this conflict. We're talking about that moment where, for that split second, I understand my partner, if I love him or her, I would never in a heartbeat want to add one measure of pain to my partner. I wouldn't do it. Not for all the money in the world. If I love someone, I'm not going to hurt them, period. That means if something in me is suggesting, directing me to act out something that is ostensibly to make my partner suffer for what the suffering they gave me, I know that's not love. That is not the action of love. And even if I'm still saying it, St. Paul said, I don't know why I do the good I don't want to do. Instead, I do the evil I wouldn't. This is all we're talking about. When love seems to be acting out a measure of trying to get our partner to fit into a container, to make them suffer for the conflict we blame them on, that's not love. That's something that we brought with us in an unconscious nature into that moment that love is asking us, Guy, Shanna, will you see this?
So, okay. How, in that moment, do we stay in the love as opposed to
I love it. I love the
shadow?
Question. Are you ready? Because it's going to knock off the socks you don't have on right now.
Right. I do have socks on. I hope they get knocked off.
Do you know the real meaning? I mean, the original, ancient meaning of the word patience?
No.
Are you ready? To suffer oneself.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We don't know what to do with our pain.
Yeah.
And because we don't know what to do with it, we don't know, as one of the apostles said, in your patience possess you your soul.
In the suffering of yourself, the willingness to suffer yourself.
Perfect love casts out fear. All of these beautiful, timeless ideas, now suddenly they begin to have a little ground in us to start looking at, you know what? I want to lash back in the worst way because I'm suddenly in so much pain, I don't know what to do with myself.
Right.
But I've been in this pain 1,000 times. And 1,000 times I blamed you for it.
Yeah.
Our relationship is developing into a pattern where you punch, I punch, and I get it. No one wins a fight.
Yeah.
And I want love more than I want to fight. I want love more than I want to win a fight. And listen to this. I want love even if it means you don't. Wow. Because I understand love is offering me a moment here to see that impatience is the way in which this concealed pain hides itself.
And I love
Yeah.
one of the stories that you illustrated in your book of the couple who was about to go down that same road in the same fight. And he said,
This
listen,
one's this
this
one's
one's on me, right? I'm not going to do this. And he looked at her. And the thing I thought was so beautiful too, especially for a man and a woman in a heterosexual relationship, is that there is a difference, right? Like when either person looks at in all relationships, but I'm thinking specifically of that dynamic where a woman's looking at a man
yes.
and sees the look in his eyes, and I'm sure it goes vice versa. And it's loving instead of that sharp, critical, defensive,
Yes.
protective.
No,
And it has the potential to just melt our hearts.
yes. We couldn't be more on target if we stuck an arrow in a bullseye.
Mm.
I have seen in my own wife's eyes moments that the moment I saw it, I thought, oh my God, what has God done?
Mm.
You know, what is that about? Not
The
you're
pain.
responsible for why I've done or said what I did.
Uh-huh.
Just the opposite. And then when I see that, guess what happens? She sees that.
Uh-huh.
And then when she sees that, love has taken us past the second stage of blame into the third stage.
Mm-hmm.
We're
So
now
the look in her eyes that you see, which is that recognition of, oh my gosh, I've caused pain, and your willingness to.
I do not want to hurt you.
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah.
But some pain in me that was blind wanted to blame you and put you in pain.
Yeah.
And when we can be aware of these things as we're just fleshing out here,
yeah,
then everything has a chance to become so different.
Yeah.
Think what would happen in the world, Shanna, if men and women, if couples, if partners, if government, if the nutty world that we're in just understood, I'm lashing out because I'm in pain.
Yeah.
You're lashing out because you're in pain. If we understood the pain, then we would be perfected as human beings by it.
Yeah.
And then what we call love, which isn't love at all, would have a chance to show us how we can begin to die to ourselves so that something completely new could be born, a new humanity. Sorry to take it to that level, but that's what we're talking about.
But it's true.
It is. We are reborn in the moment where we patiently suffer what has been killing us and the chance for love.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, it's hard to say that we don't have very much time left, because this is a conversation, the profundity of it, and both on the individual or couple or relational level and for the world is massive. But I want to make sure that you can give a little bit more. We just got to this third stage, right? Or this third awareness. So can you speak a little bit more about that before we wrap up?
There's a story in my book, and I don't know how much time I have, so you better tell me so I don't wax on
Maybe
too
we
long.
do another 5 minutes.
And then I'll be extra brief with it.
Okay.
Where I learned that I had cancer of my vocal cords.
Yes.
And I went through just the most rigorous, thank God, in more ways than I can ever say, series of surgeries to remove the cancer from my cords.
Yeah.
The last time through the surgery, I woke up in the recovery room, and I mean, look, I can't tell you. There's not time enough for you to explain how much my body. There's nothing in my body that hasn't been broken.
Yeah.
I don't know why life set it out that way. Maybe so that I could have enough pain to understand it completely. But I was in so much pain, I didn't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
And I'm laying there, and tears are running down my cheeks, thinking to myself, how much more can I possibly take of this pain? And I had quite a threshold.
Yeah.
And I looked over literally with my head on the side, and there was a woman on the other side of the recovery room, and she had been through some horrendous surgery that I could tell was for cancer. Part of her face had been surgically removed. And her husband was sitting there with her. I get emotional thinking about it, stroking her hand. Yeah. And he was in pain over her pain, and she was looking at him, And God bless her, I knew that she was more concerned with his pain than she was with hers. And in that split second, my pain disappeared. With God as my witness, I felt no pain in that moment.
When you were aware.
Yes, all I felt was this unity that exists between the three of us, where each of us wanted to give up ourselves for the sake of the other, because there was a love greater than the pain and the individuals going through it. And that's the third stage of love, where we understand we're on this planet to eventually attain to another kind of consciousness that not only can't hurt the other person, but that is already one with the other person, so that their pain is our pain, and we couldn't add to it any more than we would stomp on our own foot with our right toe. We just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
That's love. Love bears all, gives all, forgives all. And it's a way down the road. The last chapter in my book is about the fact we're in training. Let's get that clear. No one's saying who's going to be like, walk on water here. Yeah. We just want to get a toe into it at this point.
Yes.
But if we can do it because the water is the truth of ourselves, then we'll start to feel things we don't know exist. We'll begin to want to be in relationship, in communion with it, and we can begin the process of changing ourselves, going through first stage, second stage, and God willing, into the third stage where we understand it's love that gave us life, it's love that's leading us through it, and it's love we are being led to.
Whew. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've had the thought a couple times of how when I went through divorce 6 years ago, I was left with this question of what is love really, and the commitment to myself that I wasn't actually going to be in a committed long-term relationship really until I understood it. And I've gained a lot of wisdom along the way, and there's no end to it. But I feel like your book is a huge missing piece. It had been a missing piece for me, like the way you're framing it and the level of consciousness at which you're holding this, that we are love. And I highly recommend listening or reading the book for people listening, because you'll get some more concrete examples of how on earth you could even start this.
Look how unfailing this is, Shanna. I've never said this before, but love brought us together for the purpose of this conversation.
Yeah.
That's impossible. Don't you get it? You couldn't plan this. You couldn't write it out. You couldn't think it out. Couldn't dream it. And yet there it is, because I've asked from an open heart, and I've asked to wish to understand, even if I have to be patient with things I don't want to be.
Yes.
And here's the proving ground. Then you start to understand, wow, there really is something that walks right alongside me, within me, and everyone else, just waiting for the student who is ready, that the teacher could begin to help them perceive and then act out this beautiful perfecting power called love.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for everything it's taken you to get here, because this is, it's like I still can get, even that I'm only skimming the surface of everything you're talking about.
We all are, I swear to God. Just skimming it. That's what's so extraordinary. Just skimming it. Yeah. Just skimming it. But oh, what a skim. What a taste of wine. Yes. When you've never had real wine. And then you get it. Thank you. I get it. Lots of work to do. Yeah. I'm going to suffer, but consciously.
Yes.
But I'm going to change. I'm going to be the one. My partner doesn't want to change. The time will come when love will change it out, because that's what love does. Love never fails.
Yeah. Thank you. And to find your book, all of your books and your teachings?
First, to get this book, go to relationshipmagicbook.com.
Great.
If you go to relationshipmagicbook.com, all one word, Relationship Magic Book, right there you can order through the major retailers. And when you do, on the spot, you can download the audio book of Magic, which I'm told is actually better, because I read it, than the book itself. And I'd highly recommend it. And by the way, I'm offering it to you directly, Shanna. Well, it's yours. We'll work it out.
Thank you.
And you get also a webinar. I just did a 5-hour webinar on a live streamed webinar on the first ideas in relationship magic. You get that download free and an MP3 about 7 ways to bring higher love in. So you get 3 really good gifts if you go to that page,
relationshipmagicbook.com.
You can go to any store and get it, and all you have to do is go to that page and just turn the receipt in, so to speak, online, and you get the gift. So that's how to do it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us today.
I couldn't have enjoyed it more.
I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Man Alive. I hope it gives you a sense of what's possible and how good your life can be. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe to Man Alive and write a quick review that helps men like you find us. And again, head over to shanajamescoaching.com/manalive to get outtakes, videos, and raw footage I only share there. These are some of the most interesting parts of these expert conversations. You can also grab your copy of The Unknown Power to accelerate your career and solidify your confidence with women, because the two are related, and I know you don't have to settle for one or the other. Join us each week for a new episode of Man Alive.